Dear listeners, welcome to a tale that will send shivers down your spine and keep you on the edge of your seat. In this chilling story, you'll follow a journey of love, dark secrets, and an eerie connection to a malevolent force that refuses to let go. As our protagonist navigates the tranquil moments of life and the haunting nightmares that lurk beneath, you'll be drawn into a world where reality blurs with the supernatural. Get ready to be gripped by a story that will leave you questioning the boundaries between dreams and nightmares. Without further ado, let's dive into this spine-tingling tale. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the riverbank, my friend Sarah and I began our journey back from our serene afternoon by the water's edge. The sky was painted in hues of orange and purple, and the air was heavy with the promise of a warm summer night. The gentle rustling of leaves and the distant chirping of crickets accompanied our footsteps as we strolled along the narrow dirt path that led us away from the tranquil river. It was then, as we walked side by side, that we noticed something strange overhead. A shadowy cloud, like an ominous stain on the canvas of the twilight sky, started to form. At first, we assumed it was merely a flock of birds, but as it drew nearer, we realized it was something far more unsettling. It was a vast gathering of crows, and they were not just any ordinary birds. Their forms were distorted and unsettling, their feathers dark as night, and their eyes seemed to gleam with an unnatural malevolence. The cacophony of their cawing grew louder and more chilling with each passing moment. The air around us grew heavy, and an unshakable sense of foreboding settled in the pit of my stomach. The eerie chorus of the crows filled the evening air, drowning out all other sounds, and it felt as if the very sky itself was crying out in anguish. We quickened our pace, but no matter how fast we walked, the shadow of those indescribable crows continued to loom above, casting a nightmarish pall over our journey home. The first night I returned home from that eerie encounter with the ominous flock of crows, I felt a deep sense of relief. The sanctuary of my own space seemed to banish the unsettling memories of the evening. However, my solace was short-lived as, in the following nights, my dreams began to take a sinister turn. They were plagued by a recurring vision of those dark, malevolent crows surrounding me in an inescapable abyss. Their relentless cawing echoed through my nightmares, and each night I awoke in a cold sweat, unable to shake the feeling of their malevolent presence. Amidst these disquieting dreams, there was a sliver of light that emerged during my waking hours. I started to encounter a young boy. His name was Alex. We would cross paths at various places around town, sharing casual greetings that eventually transformed into full-fledged conversations. It seemed as though we were drawn to each other, an invisible thread binding our lives together. Our encounters became more frequent, and soon we found ourselves spending time together, sharing laughter and secrets, as if we had known each other for years. However, the harmony of our budding connection was disrupted when my mother discovered who I was spending time with. Her stern and worried expression was impossible to ignore, and with a voice filled with concern, she confronted me one evening. "I don't want you to see him anymore," she said firmly, her gaze unwavering. Her words left me perplexed and anxious, unsure of the reasons behind her ominous warning. I couldn't ignore the worry etched on my mother's face when she sternly told me not to see Alex anymore. I knew there was a story, a dark and unsettling tale surrounding his family, but the details remained shrouded in mystery. Despite my curiosity, I respected my mother's wishes, believing that she must have had a valid reason to be concerned. Rumors about Alex's family had circulated around town for years, but I had always dismissed them as mere gossip. In my mind, such tales belonged to the realm of superstition and old wives' tales, nothing more than a series of campfire stories designed to send shivers down one's spine. But, as weeks passed without contact, I couldn't help but wonder what was hidden behind those unsettling stories. Why had my mother reacted with such urgency? What was she trying to protect me from? The uncertainty gnawed at me, and my curiosity grew. Then, one evening, everything changed. It was a night filled with excitement and camaraderie, as a lively party buzzed with laughter and music. As I mingled with friends, I suddenly spotted Alex in the midst of the revelry. Our eyes locked, and the magnetic pull that had drawn us together before seemed even stronger. Ignoring my mother's warning, I found myself irresistibly drawn towards him, our paths converging like moths to a flame. I believed that the evening couldn't be more perfect. Surrounded by friends and enveloped in the glow of laughter and music, my earlier worries seemed to vanish into the background. But just as I was reveling in the beauty of the moment, the ominous cawing of crows pierced the air as if they had awoken me from the most enchanting dream. The chilling sounds reminded me of my mother's ominous words. Startled and caught in the turmoil of emotions, I pushed Alex away from me and shouted, "No, I don't want to be with you." My voice trembled with a mix of fear and anger, and my heart raced as I grappled with the disturbing events of the evening. Alex, with a look of sadness and understanding, gazed into my eyes and spoke with an eerie calmness. "I know it's because of the stories about me and my father that your mother is poisoning your thoughts, but it will all come back to you." His words hung in the air like a malevolent curse, sending a shiver down my spine. It was as though he knew something I didn't, and the weight of his proclamation cast a pall of dread over our once promising connection. After that fateful evening, I never crossed paths with Alex again. It was as if he had vanished from my life completely, leaving me with an unsettling void that was difficult to fill. I could feel his presence lingering in my thoughts, but there was no way to reach out or reconnect. Time moved forward, and last year, I met Declan, a charming young man from a neighboring town. His family appeared to be perfect, and my mother was overjoyed by our relationship. Everything seemed to be falling into place, and we talked about our future together, planning the wedding of our dreams. As the excitement of our upcoming wedding built, I couldn't help but feel a creeping sense of unease. Those same creepy dreams that had haunted me in the past began to resurface with a vengeance. The malevolent crows returned, pecking at my subconscious, tearing away the facade of happiness that had surrounded my life. The dread and uncertainty that had once haunted my nights now seeped into my waking hours, casting a shadow over the perfect life I had envisioned with Declan. The dreams are increasingly creepy. I dream of crows attacking me, tearing the goat from me with their beaks, pecking at my flesh, pulling out my eyes. I tried to justify the resurgence of those unsettling dreams, attributing them to the stress and tension of planning the wedding. The weight of impending marriage, the preparations, and the expectations were surely responsible for my disturbed nights, or so I told myself. However, the toll these nightmares were taking on me didn't go unnoticed by my mother. She saw the change in me, my sleepless nights, the weariness etched into my eyes, and the paleness that seemed to have overtaken my complexion. One day, she couldn't bear to see me suffer any longer and gently asked, "What's happening to you, dear?" I hesitated but finally decided to confide in her. I told her about my dreams, about those dark, unsettling visions that plagued my sleep. When she asked me what exactly I was dreaming of, I simply replied, "Crows." My mother's face contorted with a mixture of fear, anger, and distress. She screamed, "It's him! It's Alex and his family!" Her revelation left me utterly baffled. I couldn't comprehend how this could be possible. Alex and I hadn't been in contact for years, and I had moved on with Declan. The resurgence of these crows and the connection to Alex's family left me with an overwhelming sense of dread and confusion. As the revelation of the connection between my dreams and Alex's family unfolded, I couldn't help but recall his ominous words. At the time, they seemed like a curse, but now they carried an eerie weight of foreboding, as if he had known something I was only beginning to understand. My nightmares continued to worsen, becoming more horrifying and relentless with each passing night. I felt myself growing weaker and more fatigued every day, the weight of these sinister visions taking a toll on my physical and mental well-being. One particularly dark and unsettling day, I found myself trapped in some kind of suffocating darkness. It was as if a frenzy had overtaken me, and in my disoriented state, I heard my mother and grandmother calling my name urgently. Their voices seemed to come from a distance, and I couldn't discern if it was a dream or reality. The cacophony of crows above us intensified, their relentless cawing growing louder and more sinister, like a chorus of malevolent spirits, and it only added to my overwhelming sense of dread. I knew that something beyond the ordinary was happening, and the line between reality and nightmare had blurred to a point where I could no longer tell the difference. As my mother and grandmother carried me to the car, I felt as though I were little more than a lifeless, weightless form. They placed me gently in the back seat, and I desperately wanted to ask them where we were going and what was happening, but my voice failed me, and my words remained trapped in my throat. We arrived in front of a dilapidated house, a place I had never seen before. My mother and grandmother led me to the door, and with a sense of dread, I realized that the house was the very embodiment of eerie folklore. An unknown old woman, who resembled a witch from a dark fairy tale, opened the door. Her gnarled hands and unsettling presence sent shivers down my spine. Inside the house, I was given a strange drink, and I heard the old woman intermittently speaking strange words that I couldn't quite understand. The room seemed to blur around me as the concoction took effect, and I felt as if I were being drawn into a world that was both alien and nightmarish. The old woman's incantations and the peculiar atmosphere of the place left me with an overwhelming sense of impending doom. I feel a lot of pain. My whole body convulses. I see him, Alex, before my eyes. He and his father stand laughing while the wild crows tear my body piece by piece of flesh, blood pouring down their beaks and feathers. I'm screaming so much it hurts. It felt as though I was descending into an abyss of pain, a descent from which there would be no return. As I fell, I glimpsed a haunting vision. My mother and grandmother standing over a freshly dug grave, and my fiancé weeping, tears streaming down his face as he held a bouquet of flowers. The earth fell upon my lifeless body, and in that moment, I knew I was gone. The world grew dark, and all that remained was the sound of my own heartbeat. I couldn't remember anything after that. It was as if I had been thrust into an empty void, devoid of time, space, or consciousness. And then, just when all seemed lost, I awoke. The sensation of waking up was surreal, as I found myself in my own house, in my own bed. Beside my bed, my mother, grandmother, and my fiancé stood, their faces wreathed in smiles. The contrast between the horrifying vision of my own funeral and this moment of joy and relief was jarring. I couldn't fathom how I had come back from the brink of what felt like death's embrace. The room was filled with an eerie silence, and I couldn't bring myself to ask the questions that swirled in my mind. My grandmother's soothing voice broke the silence, her words carrying an eerie sense of finality. "Everything is fine. Everything is over," she said, her words leaving a bittersweet taste in the air. I still couldn't muster the courage to ask the questions that haunted my thoughts. Where had they taken me, and what had actually happened during those surreal and nightmarish days? Time moved forward, and gradually, life began to regain a semblance of normalcy. I got married, and the love my fiancé and I shared blossomed into a family. We had children, and the laughter of our little ones filled our home with warmth and happiness. I heard through the grapevine that Alex's father had fallen seriously ill, and the family had decided to move to another city, severing any lingering ties to the ominous past that had haunted me. With each passing day, The memories of those chilling days and the eerie connection to the Crows and Alex's family started to fade, allowing my life to flourish once again in the embrace of my new family. Just when I believed that all the darkness was truly behind me, I welcomed my third child into the world. The labor was difficult, but when they finally placed the newborn in my arms, my heart swelled with joy and relief. I looked down at my baby, overwhelmed with love, and then my joy turned to shock. On the baby's tiny hand, a large mark in the unmistakable shape of a crow stood out, as if etched there by some eerie force. Speechless, I stared at the mark, my mind racing with a torrent of emotions and memories. It was a chilling reminder of the past, an unsettling symbol that I had thought was long gone from my life. The mark on my child's hand brought back haunting questions and fears, leaving me to grapple with a sense of foreboding that threatened to cast a shadow over the happiness I had so desperately sought.
Nex adu immortalis, libri spondeo nex, ad hoc mort animadverto